Okay, so welcome back. This is lecture 14 of auditing concepts for CAAP and this is for CMA Intermediate June 2022 attempt. ठीक है, तो ये हमारा lecture 14 है. आज हम करने वाले हैं internal check, internal control and internal audit. Okay, this is going to be the topic for today. So very important. Okay, from this topic at least 7 to 8 marks are normally asked. Okay, so very important. So we just have to understand it conceptually, so you will be able to write it. ठीक है? Okay, so just आपको समझना है what is the relationship between the three. Okay, and certain other points just have to understand it conceptually. ठीक है? तो आप आराम से फिर आप लिख पाओगे इसको. So you will be able to write it by yourself. So main thing before I start, just an introduction. Internal control. Okay, so in internal control you have got two parts. One is internal check and internal audit. Okay, this is what we are going to study in this chapter. Okay, now internal audit, you know, it is audit basically. Okay, audit done by the organization itself, normally by the employees of the organization. Okay, or at the behest of the management of the organization. Okay, so that is called internal audit. ठीक है, ये तो auditing function में आ जाता है, right? So then what remains is internal control and internal check. ठीक है, internal check में basically बस ये देखा जाता है कि whenever accounting is done, ठीक है, कोई भी चीज का अगर बैंक है, suppose receiving money receiving function है, ठीक है, so that transaction should not be controlled by just one person. Okay, so if one person is receiving money, some other person has to make the entry in the ledger. Okay, some other person has to authorize. A third person, some other person will give a token like that. The way it will be split is, okay, the way it will be split is, it will, so it is going to be impossible to for the person to embezzle money. ठीक है, तो इसमें जो है हम क्या क्या देख रहे हैं, इन इंटरनल चेक जो है, इट इज द वे द सिस्टम इज फ्रेम्ड. ठीक है, सो इंटरनल चेक में नो ऑडिटर और नो आउटसाइड एंटिटी कम्स इन चेक्स. ओके, सो व्हाट इज डन इज you fix the transaction in such a way that one person doesn't control the entire transactions, which is why he cannot embezzle money on its own. If he has to embezzle money, he will have to speak to many people and take them in his side. Only then he can embezzle it. Even if one person is against him, he will not be able to embezzle money. Okay, that's what internal check is about. ठीक है, तो ट्रांजैक्शन को ऐसे सेट करना है और इस तरीके से इसको रखना है कि इवन जो ये डिपार्टमेंट्स भी एक नहीं रहेंगे. All this will not be the same department. Okay, so these, normally speaking, it's how this is how it is done, that these people are not those who say sit together and take decisions. ठीक है, ऐसा नहीं कि 3-4 people here itself, I give to him, he gives to him and I get it back. It's not like that. Okay, so it is difficult for the person to go to each one of them, ठीक है, and embezzle money. That's how it is set up. ये हो गया आपका internal check. समझ में आ गया वो क्या है. Okay, now internal control is little larger term than internal check. As we have seen, internal check also comes under it. Internal audit also is a part of internal control, and other functions, where some functions like budgetary control, ठीक है, and other control systems of the organization. ठीक है, so जैसे internal check में budgetary control वगैरह नहीं आता. Okay, there you are only seeing that one transaction is properly split into different people. Only that is the aim of internal check. Internal control will also see whether the budgetary control and other functions are all performing properly. ठीक है, so वो सब internal control में आ जाता है. So internal control is that's a larger function. Okay, so chalo, now we'll go into the part. Okay, this is the part, sub part of the chapter which we have to do. ठीक है, so इसमें जो है देखिए आप जैसे आप देख रहे हैं here there is lots of stuff written है ना. So I'll tell you the meaning of each paragraph. ठीक है, what that paragraph says उतना मैं बताऊंगा, that's what you have to catch. ठीक है, इसमें कई चीजें which is repeated, that same thing will be repeated. ठीक है, so इसको रीडिंग मार के कोई मतलब नहीं है. ओके, डोंट गो फॉर जस्ट रीडिंग इट. ठीक है, मैं आपको पैरा बाय पैरा आई विल टेल यू द मीनिंग. ठीक है, एंड विल प्रोसीड अकॉर्डिंगली. चलो ठीक है, सो इंटरनल चेक, इंटरनल कंट्रोल एंड इंटरनल ऑडिट, दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव टू सी. वी आर स्टार्टिंग विद इंटरनल चेक. ठीक है, सो इंटरनल चेक में आई एक्सप्लेन्ड यू ऑलरेडी. सो ये वाला जो पैराग्राफ है, जस्ट पिक दिस अप नाउ, दिस पैराग्राफ. ठीक है, ये क्या बोलते हैं हम देखेंगे. ठीक है, सो फर्स्ट थिंग इज व्हाट इट्स सेइंग इज देयर आर in accounting there are several transactions. For one transaction to get completed there are several stages. Okay, that is, you will do posting, then you will record receipts, payments. Okay, many other things, some approvals are also there. Okay, and this involves number of staff members. Okay, one person will do posting, one person will do the payment or receipt, whatever it is. Approval will be done by another person, like that. Okay, ठीक है, so इसीलिए that's why in internal check system continuous internal audit is going on by the staff itself. So in other words, what is happening, when one staff does one part of the transaction, again that thing goes to the next staff. Okay, automatically it gets checked, right? If he has done something wrong or something, the other staff will discover it. So it is the transaction is arranged in such a way that an audit happens in live time. Okay, ठीक है, so which is why internal check is a very valuable part of internal control. Okay, you can, yeah, Spicer and Pegler have defined it, so आपको definition याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Okay, ठीक है, just understand it. ये है internal check means it is arrangement of staff duties where no one can record every aspect of the transaction. ठीक है, ये this is the main thing. So errors and frauds are reduced to the minimum. बस इतना याद रखना. No one person can do all aspects of the transaction, which reduces errors and frauds. That's it. ये हो गया आपका first paragraph of internal check. ठीक है, now in the second one हमको थोड़ा we have been given some examples. Okay, एक example दिया गया है of internal control. Okay, so here, ठीक है, the transaction taken is cashing of check at a bank. Somebody, a customer has brought a check, he wants to encash it. How the internal control will function for that? ठीक है, he'll produce check at the counter. Okay, there he'll get a token. ठीक है, token number is entered in the back of the check. So till now only one employee is involved. Okay, so he has given him the token number. Okay, he's called the attending clerk, whoever has attended to this person. Okay, okay, then check is passed on to ledger clerk. Okay, ledger clerk will see the credit balance, whether the customer has enough balance, and if yes, then he will make a debit entry. Okay, and then it is sent for signature verification. Okay, after all this is done, okay, it is passed for payment. Okay, the cashier will make the payment. Okay, and then the token number, when the payment will be made, the token number will also be recorded. Okay, that for this token this much money was given, and this will be done by some other person. Okay, who will record against the tokens. The person who will give the token is different, person who will record it at the end will be different. तो ये एक आपका एक नॉर्मल, आप इसको ऐसे कैसे नहीं लिखना है आपको. Even if you want to write this, just write it जैसे मैंने बताया ना, just in that way you can write it. See, No bank has exactly the same procedure. Okay, you go to every bank. If you just go to any two banks in your area, the procedure will be slightly different. Correct. So इसीलिए आपको उसको you don't have to mug it up as it is. Just ऐसा कोई भी एक transaction you can show. ठीक है? Where you just have want to show that there are different people doing different transactions. बस that's it. Okay. चलो ये हो गया इसका. The next point is हम आएंगे. What is the auditor's duty regarding internal check system? ठीक है, ये हम देख रहे हैं. Okay, this is what auditor's duty regarding internal check system. See, for big concerns there is good internal check system. ठीक है, so good internal check system is there, then auditor's work is reduced, general accuracy of accounting is good. ठीक है, so his work is reduced, but he must not be negligent. Okay, he should apply a few test checks. He should himself test and see. He can put a dummy transaction or something and he can test and see. ठीक है, whether actually this a particular transaction is going through many different people and these people do not have access to each other like that. Okay, ठीक है, so you can check you can just check a few transactions if everything is fine. Okay, if the check system appears to be good, you can just check few transactions but fully. Okay, so that he can check from starting to beginning, so he'll find out like what is how the transaction is moving. Okay, so for example, take cash sales. Okay, and check entire transactions of cash sales. Take any one category of transaction and check it. Okay, if that is working fine, he will understand that all receipts will be cash sales is what you are getting receipt, right? Receipt of cash. So all receipts will be working accordingly. Or even he can do even for cash sales. I think it's up to him basically. He will decide. He can also pick up some high value transactions, some low value transactions, some medium value transactions, and see how all transactions are being done. Is low value transaction being neglected like that? Okay. Okay. So when he selects transactions, you have to see the transactions are representative and are true specimens, meaning that that transaction, you take a transaction which is complex enough. Okay. So you know that it can touch upon several different employees, that kind of transaction. Okay. That also you should take some relatively straightforward simple transactions also. Okay, because in simple transactions chances of collusion also will be more, right? Okay. So चलो, so basically इतना ही है यहाँ पे जो हमने देखे. What we have seen here, in big concerns there is good internal check system. Okay, but he should not be negligent. He can just pick up some transactions and check them fully. Good specimens he should pick up and check them fully, so he will know what is the route that transaction is taking. Okay, for approval. बस इतना ही है इस part में. ठीक है, and then next is if he finds no mistake. ठीक है, and there is nothing to arouse his suspicion. Okay, he can presume that accounts are correct. But remember that he is not relieved of responsibility. If any fraud comes out, then he is only he will be held accountable. Okay, so whatever transactions he feels minimum number should be checked, that he should check. Okay, only thing is just existence of a good internal check reduces his work but does not reduce his liability. This sentence is important. Okay, this is important. Reduces his work but not his liability. ठीक है, इसका liability कम नहीं होता. Okay, so which is why, ठीक है, so make sure that, I mean, how much he has to check and check that much. ठीक है, if he feels, if he's doubtful, then, and if he feels he needs to check more, then he should check more. Okay, so to what extent auditor will depend on the internal check? It will depend on his tact, skill, experience, and judgment. His judgment of after doing his tests and seeing the things, based on his experience and talent of judgment, he can decide it. Okay. तो ये हो गया आपका ऑडिटर्स ड्यूटी रिगार्डिंग इंटरनल चेक सिस्टम। जैसे देखें है कुछ नहीं इसमें, ठीक है, इफ यू सी देयर आर टू बिग पैराग्राफ्स, ओके, बट देयर इज नथिंग मच इन इट, ठीक है। वी हैव ओनली सेड हियर दैट if a good internal system is there, then he can reduce his check but cannot be negligent, pick up a representative transaction, check it fully, ठीक है। And if everything is fine, then he can take it as correct, but that doesn't absolve him of his liability, okay। So he should use his tact skill and experience and decide accordingly। बस इतना ही चीज जो मैंने भी बताया आपको, these two paragraph has only these things, ठीक है। ना ये है आपका, ये जो नेक्स्ट पार्ट है ये भी एक आपका छोटा क्वेश्चन आ सकता है इसमें, ओके। दिस वन, दिस इटसेल्फ कैन बी अ स्मॉल 4 मार्क क्वेश्चन, ओके। बहुत इजी, इट्स वेरी वेरी सिंपल। यहाँ पे भी फंडामेंटल एम्स ऑफ इंटरनल चेक, ठीक है। एम, व्हाट इज द एम ऑफ इंटरनल चेक? वन इज टू पिन डाउन डेफिनेट पर्सन्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर पर्टिकुलर एक्ट्स। If there is one full act, one act is just take one person has deposited 10,000 rupees, that is one act, okay। For this act, whose responsibility is what, that should be clearly demarcated, okay। Like, it should not be that SR one transaction is going to this department, okay, there are two clerks in it, this clerk said I did not get it, he is saying I did not get it. It should not be like that. The transaction, it should be such that it should, you can easily and distinctly make out the responsibility of the person. This transaction has gone 100% to this person only. Should be like that. Should be no doubt. Okay. So pin down responsibility of different person. Okay. So there will be no omission. Okay. ये है, and obtain confirmation of facts and entries. ठीक है, by creation and preservation of necessary records. Second वाला तो is general audit thing also, okay, confirmation of facts and entries, okay। And third is breakdown of routine procedures, ठीक है। This is if say ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है कि there is one counter where there is too much rush, other people are in other counters, there is not much rush, so then break up the transactions in such a way that work is evenly distributed, ठीक है। So ये जो है, this is more about even flow of work, ठीक है। If one person is too much pressurized, then there is a chance of error and all. So also, so internal check का ये भी aim है और objective है। Aim of internal check is this also, to make sure that workflow is evenly balanced, okay, ठीक है, and reduce to a minimum possibility of fraud and error, बस इतना है, ठीक है। These are the aims of internal check। बहुत ही सिंपल है, just एक वर्ड, रिमेंबर one word as I said, और जस्ट वैसा आपको लिखना है, ठीक है। अब नेक्स्ट पॉइंट में हम आ रहे हैं, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट चेक लिस्ट, ठीक है, ओके। सो इट इज कॉल्ड एन, ठीक है, द चेक लिस्ट जो होता है ना, चेक लिस्ट इज नथिंग बट इट इज अ लिस्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस, ठीक है। सो नॉर्मली इट इज कॉल्ड इंटरनल कंट्रोल चेकलिस्ट, ठीक है। बट हमने देखा कि इन इंटरनल कंट्रोल व्हाट आर द मेन थिंग्स, इंटरनल चेक एंड इंटरनल ऑडिट, ठीक है। सो इंटरनल ऑडिट इज अ डिफरेंट फंक्शन, तो उसको एक बार क्लियर, इफ यू सेपरेट इट, सो देन दैट्स व्हाई इंटरनल कंट्रोल चेकलिस्ट मोस्ट मोर क्लोजली रिसेंबल्स टू इंटरनल चेकलिस्ट, ठीक है। सो इंटरनल कंट्रोल चेकलिस्ट को इसलिए कई बार you also call as internal checklist, ठीक है, ओके। सो अब यहाँ पे जो है दिस चेकलिस्ट, बेसिकली ये किसका चेकलिस्ट होता है? ये चेकलिस्ट इज दैट ऑफ द ऑडिटर, ठीक है। सो ये चेकलिस्ट नाउ इज नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ योर इंटरनल चेक, ठीक है, और इंटरनल कंट्रोल। दिस इज अ चेकलिस्ट prepared by the auditor to find out whether the internal check is in operation or not। तो अब पता कैसे करेगा कि इंटरनल चेक ठीक है कि नहीं है, ओके। not everything you can find out by observation, okay। You'll have to go and ask questions to people, so he'll go and ask the cashier, okay, from here where does the transaction go, he'll tell it will go to this person, he'll go there, he can ask some questions, okay। So he will have some questions, ready-made checklist of questions. If one employee answers that question, okay, that will make his work quite easy, and he will also understand what is the status of internal check. So it's a questionnaire. Questionnaire means you have a list of questions. Okay. So for example, like for receipt transaction up to 10,000, how many clerks handle it? Then that person will say 4 clerks handle it. That's one question. Okay. Like that, there can be many questions. Okay. So then he'll say, so if the transaction is more than 10,000, then how many clerks handle it? Then he'll say, then 5 clerks handle it. So like that, there'll be questions. Okay. So it is designed to draw attention to important aspects of the system of internal check. Okay. Okay. So questionnaire, that questionnaire, the answers to that questionnaire will give him good insight into the internal check. Okay. Question is, it is framed in such a way that positive answer. Okay. If the answer is positive, then it is a satisfactory position. Okay. So say if the auditor asks like that, okay, if there is a transaction of 50,000, does it go through more than 4 clerks? He'll say yes. Then he is satisfied. Okay, that means it is strong enough. Okay. So questions he will phrase in such a way that wherever he is getting answer yes, 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 that is satisfactory for him. Okay. And where there is no, only there he will have to see further. Okay. If the answer is negative, then he'll make an inquiry. He'll make an inquiry to see if there is a satisfactory substitute. Okay. So that is, for example, if the answer is no, then he will just see, okay, if there is some other procedure which is taking care of it. Okay. So negative answer means he has to examine it further. Okay. Okay. So यहाँ पे जो है ना, all the items of the questionnaire, all items of questionnaire will not be of same importance. Okay. Each question, now there can be one question, say, which is very important. Okay. If the answer comes out as no, then he will have to do many things. There can be one more question which is not that important. If the answer comes out as no, he can ignore it. Unless 5 or 6 no's he gets, okay, then he can club it together, and then he can inquire further. Okay, but 1 or 2 no's in that area is okay. Okay, not a big deal. Okay, so all questions are not of same importance. That's why unhealthy position might be revealed either by a single negative answer or by a number of such answers. Okay. Okay, either one answer itself might mean, okay, there is some major flaw, or even 10 answers, 10 negative answers might not mean there is a major flaw. ठीक है, ये हो गया आपका इंटरनल चेक लिस्ट. ठीक है, इंटरनल कंट्रोल चेकलिस्ट. ठीक है, और इंटरनल चेकलिस्ट. ओके, we also call it as internal checklist, because this checklist basically talks about internal check. ठीक है, so ऐसा बोला जाता है. तो basically what we have seen here in this paragraph, okay, so about internal control checklist or internal checklist. So this is prepared by whom? One auditor. Okay, so he wants to see whether everything is fine with regards to internal check. Positive answer if he gets, that means he is satisfied. Negative means he has to inquire further. Okay, and last thing what we studied is all questions are cannot be of the same importance. Okay, okay, ये इस पैरा में these are the main things which we studied. Okay, ठीक है. So then अगला जो ये point what we are seeing here is that no questionnaire can be considered as complete. ठीक है. This is an evolving process. This time we had asked 10 questions, let us say, but we did not get some answers, so we thought of more questions. Next time, for the next audit, we have devised 14 questions possible, right? So that is why no questionnaire can be considered as complete. Okay. Okay, so you have to always keep and make it as comprehensive as possible. Okay, so what is the main thing? It just helps you, this questionnaire helps you get very quickly a good sense of the internal control. Okay, चलो, so this is ये हो गया हमारा this page. And ठीक है, so next यहाँ पे जो आ रहा है, this heading is internal control question. This is also the same thing. जैसे ये जो है, इसको सब इंटरचेंजेबली देखा जाता है, इंटरनल कंट्रोल क्वेश्चनर और इंटरनल चेक क्वेश्चनर. ठीक है, because for if questionnaire is prepared for other things like budgetary control and all, so it will be named separately. ठीक है, so chalo, so this internal control questionnaire also, you will basically do evaluation of internal check only. ठीक है, so evaluation of internal check is very very important for statutory auditor, also for internal auditor. ठीक है, because their work depends on how good the internal check is. Okay, so it is very very important. ठीक है, so for statutory auditor, it depends very much on soundness of internal control. Okay, so and there is limitation of time in statutory audit always. Okay, you have to see so many transactions, correct? So wherever there is a chance that you did not look in too much of detail, okay, there you can kind of, if the internal control or internal check is strong, then you can just check the main things and move ahead. Okay, so the statutory auditor has to decide the extent of in-depth audit of many areas. Okay, so which is why he will have to know how good is the internal check system, so that which is not very important, things which are just of a routine nature, not very important financially, there he can reduce his checking. Okay, in audit you have to do that. See, you do not have that much of time. There's always give and take of time, so you have to give more time to the core areas. Okay, so ये चीज है first. Okay, so internal check gives a clearer insight into the operational systems, okay, and a view of the organization. So how is the check system set? He gets to know. Okay, so he is able to spot weaknesses in the systems also. Okay, it just comes from the first point. Okay, okay. So now यहाँ पे अब हम बात कर रहे हैं what is this questionnaire. ठीक है, so internal check system questionnaire, ठीक है, or you call it internal control questionnaire. Okay, is a list of systematically and logically prepared questions. ठीक है, the list of questions. Okay, what is questionnaire? You should be able to write this. May not be word to word, but something like this. Okay, list of systematically and logically prepared questions designed to find out and evaluate the effectiveness of internal check system. Okay, बस ये main part है. So it is a systematic and logically prepared questionnaire designed to evaluate effectiveness of internal check system. ठीक है, it should be as comprehensive as possible. ठीक है, और this questionnaire will be given to whom? It will be replied by the official of the department or division. Okay, whoever is doing that work, so this will be given to that person. So normally they will give it to a person who is little senior, so he will be able to answer it better. Okay, okay. So during audit, what statutory auditor will do? He'll submit a complete questionnaire. Okay, he'll submit a list of complete questionnaire, and the organization will answer and give it back to him. ठीक है, they will answer and give it back to him. जैसे आप देख रहे हो जो मैंने चीजें बताया आपको in this part also questionnaire, although so much is written, you can easily write it. Each paragraph can be written in 2 to 3 sentences. Okay, ठीक है. So for statutory auditor again, okay, So he will decide his checking, how how deep his checking is going to be, depending on the replies in the questionnaire. Okay. So if there are negative replies, then he can also, if there are negative replies, it can also result in qualifying the report, saying that this system needs to be revamped or something like that. Okay, based on the seriousness of the situation. बस इतना ही. ठीक है. Okay. So internal auditor in their pre-audit, ठीक है, internal audit जो pre-audit क्यों बोल रहे हैं, क्योंकि before statutory audit internal audit will be done, so that's why they are talking about pre-audit. ठीक है. So for internal audit also this questionnaire is very important. ठीक है. He can also prepare his own questionnaire, internal auditor. Now abhi tak hum were talking about statutory auditor. Now last time also, previously the statutory auditor would have come. Okay, so internal auditor would be having those checklists, and also you can use that checklist. If you want to add some question, you can add to it. Okay, so this will help internal auditor also in his program. Okay, and it will also help the questionnaires, also help department or divisional heads, because they know that if these questions, most of these questions are yes, answered yes, then the system is very good, and the management also wants the system to be good. Okay, so they can also use such a questionnaire for benefit of the department. Okay, okay, so management can review the systems using this questionnaire. Okay, so basically यहाँ पे हमने बोला this questionnaire is mainly used by the statutory auditor, but also helpful to internal auditor and also to department and divisional heads. ठीक है. So ये बात है. अभी next जो है हम देखेंगे, we'll just see question, some sample questionnaires we'll see. ठीक है, कि एक will pick up any one transaction and how that questionnaire can be for that transaction. ठीक है. So ये अगर ऐसा कुछ लिखने के लिए आया, so if you get a question like this, like just frame an internal control questionnaire for cash and bank receipts, ठीक है, something like that. So इसमें से भाई आपको वैसे का वैसे लिखने की जरूरत नहीं. If you make sense, आपको you should be able to make sense. Okay. ये देख रहे हैं हम internal control questionnaire for cash and bank receipts. Okay, so we are seeing internal control questionnaire or internal check questionnaire for cash and bank receipts. Okay, so what we are seeing here is how the questions should be framed in the questionnaire. Okay, so first thing is, the first main question here is inward mail, the mail which comes in opened by persons not connected with handling cash or the accounts department. So first thing is, whenever cash and bank receipts, okay, are coming in, okay, if a mail is coming in, okay, so it should be opened by someone who is different from those handling cash or the accounts department. That is, it should be a third person. Okay, that is the first main question. ठीक है. अब इसके बाद में ये तो हो गया मेन, यानी whenever you're getting cash, boxes, okay, boxes of cash, whenever you're getting, okay, that should be opened by a third person, okay, not directly by the accounts department or person handling cash. ठीक है. Okay, now इसके बाद जो हमारे questionnaire के questions are these. Is the inward mail date stamped? Okay, it should be date stamped, date should be there. Okay, detailed record of receipts prepared, whatever records are whatever receipts are there, is there a record prepared? Okay, are checks crossed by employees opening mail? So each employee opening mail, okay, there should be some identification mark, okay, that employee has opened that mail. Okay, so checks should be specially crossed by employees. Okay, some symbol which has to be put in to say that this employee has opened that email. Okay, okay. and bank deposits should be prepared by someone other than those responsible for cash receipts or personal ledger. Okay. Again, bank deposits also similarly should be prepared by someone who is not taking the cash receipts. Okay. The list, we're talking about the list. Okay. And the duplicate, that is the counterfoils, wherever you have got in the paying slip, you have a counterfoil, right? So such counterfoil ठीक है, are the counterfoils received by the bank? ठीक है, so is the received means they're just trying to find out here if there is another duplicate record of that, all the foils which you are giving along with your check or something. Okay, ठीक है, all foils will form a separate record, right? In itself, it will have the account number and all that. So that is what is asked here. ठीक है, तो इसमें आपको जैसे इतना बोल रहा हूं मैं कि ये सारे के सारे क्वेश्चन ऐसे ही लिखना जरूरी नहीं. Write with your logic. Okay, you will not be able to write it like this. Write with your logic. Okay, just the inward mail, if the inward mail is stamped, is record of receipts kept, the person who is keeping record of receipts should be someone other than the clerk who is receiving money. That is one thing. In normal language you should write. Okay, and comparison of items in the duplicate counterfoils, okay, with the checks recorded in the cash receipts. Okay, so comparison of the two, whether they are matching. Okay, so is that done? Okay. Okay, are receipts given for over the counter collections? So anyone who has over the counter means people who have just come in and deposited money directly, cash. Okay, are receipts given for that? These are small questions. Okay, reconciliation, okay, of collection with the amount banked, right? So the collections of branch offices and sales offices, that is for secondary offices, the collections should be deposited in a special bank account. Okay, and can be only withdrawn by authority of the head office. Okay, जैसे मैं बोल रहा हूँ, ये सब all these things are there. It's not needed that you should write each and everything. Just go by your logic and write. Just think of a bank and write it accordingly. ऐसे ही होता है auditing में, जो है ना, आप इसको सब याद नहीं कर सकते. You will not be able to learn all this. Just see the main points and just, you know, you should be able to write a certain number of points. If internal control questionnaire बोले 8 to 10 points हमको लिखते आना चाहिए easily. All simple things you can write. At least 6 to 8 points you should be able to write. ठीक है. Collections are made by representatives of the company, that is some agents of the company are making collections. For them you should give serially numbered you should give them serially numbered checks. Okay, checks, or if you are giving them foils, counter foils, that should be serially numbered. Why? Because क्यों serially numbered होना चाहिए? Because see, if there are 10 representatives who are collecting from 10 different people, the numbers are serially, if it is serially numbered, you will be able to find out actually who has collected this amount very easily. It will be easy to tie it with them. Okay, so if representatives are collecting, okay, then give them serially numbered foils. Okay, this is there a system of issuing permanent receipts? Okay, for temporary or provisional receipts. Okay, you can just ignore this. Okay, और यहाँ पे, और then you have जो collections है. Okay, collections, are they promptly received and banked? The receipt forms should be serially numbered, kept in safe custody, controlled by a register, unused stocks checked regularly. Okay, and made out by one employee and dispatched by another. Okay? So always making sure that one employee should not control the whole thing. Okay, और जो है हमें whichever receipts, ठीक है, and first of all you should preserve receipts. ठीक है, so make sure that you preserve receipts, or ठीक है, और anything which is not intended to be used, it should be cancelled. Just don't carry it. ठीक है, ये हो गया 11. Then there are some more. ये सब बहुत सिंपल चीजें हैं. You have got 20 points here. इसमें से 8 to 10 points you should be able to write. Even if you read this, just go through this lecture once. If you are going through this lecture once, इसमें से आप आराम से you should be able to write 8 to 10 points. ठीक है. Then is the opening of bank accounts authorized by board of directors? ठीक है, any new bank account is to be opened, then it should be authorized by board of directors. This is one easy point. ठीक, ऐसे points को mark कर लेना चाहिए. ठीक है, which are easy to remember. ठीक है. Now are sundry items like dividend, interest, rent, commission, ठीक है, these kind of receipts, are these regularly checked by a responsible official to satisfy that correct amount is received? There are small amounts, there's a chance that little less or more is received. Okay, so someone should check that you are receiving the right amount. Okay, regarding sundry items, is a procedure to ensure that hundi borrowing, okay, as only by checks crossed account pay. Hundi should be borrowed only by account pay checks. Take it only by account pay checks. Okay, is cash balance verified frequently? Okay, so cash balance should be verified frequently. Be small point. Okay, and are they listed immediately? Are such lists compared with cash book regularly? ठीक है, compare the list prepared with the cash book. यानी ये जो listed है ना, इसका ये मतलब नहीं है वो listing of shares वाला listing नहीं. Listed मतलब are you preparing a list immediately? That is what they are saying. ठीक है. Is there an arrangement with the postal authorities to receive checks instead of cash? With postal authorities, do you have arrangements where you are trying to receive in checks instead of cash? This is one point, very easy point. ठीक है, आराम से आपको 8 to 10 points, simple points मिल जाएंगे. Okay, you'll easily get few simple points. ठीक है, and are cashier's duty taken over for a few days by someone else? In between, cashier's duty should be taken by someone else to just make sure whether everything is going right. ठीक है. So if rough cash book is maintained, ठीक है, then fair cash book should be written up promptly from the rough to fair. ठीक है, and fair cash book and rough cash book should be cross checked by a person other than cashier. ठीक है, these are the main things. Okay, we talked about your checklist basically. Okay, for receipts, this is cash and bank receipts. ठीक है. So if questionnaire is asked, you should be able to write, as I said, 8 to 10 points. Okay. चलिए नेक्स्ट एक छोटा सा एक डिफरेंस बिटवीन ओके चेकलिस्ट एंड इंटरनल कंट्रोल क्वेश्चनर. ठीक है, व्हाट इज सिंपल चीज है. ठीक है, तो ये सब यहाँ पे जो है ये जो दिख रहा है पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम क्वांटिटी, इसके पीछे अपने को टाइम वेस्ट नहीं करना है. ओके, ठीक है, बस इसमें आपको मेन पॉइंट को समझना है. ओके, जस्ट अंडरस्टैंड द पॉइंट, इजीली यू कैन राइट दिस 4 पॉइंट्स. ठीक है, सो चेकलिस्ट क्या है? When auditor goes to audit, after every work is done, okay, this work is done, he'll check off. So that is for the information of the auditor or the audit staff, whatever work is assigned, okay, to see that, okay, this work you have to do today, he'll say to the audit assistant. So after doing each work, he will tick off. Okay, so he knows what the work is to be done. The questionnaire is what we have discussed now, that is given to the client, employees of the client, to just understand whether internal check is working or not. Okay, this is the main premise here. Okay, so checklist is issued at the commencement of the audit and reported back after completion of the audit. The complete checklist will be given before audit, okay, to all the staff of the auditor, okay, not of the client. So they'll be using it, and at the end of the audit, they'll finish it and give it back to the main auditor. Okay, and questionnaire, internal control questionnaire, it can be issued at any point of time. Okay, so whenever it is required, then the auditor will issue it, the person will mark it and give it back immediately. Okay, correct. So this is one difference, and it is issued to the audit staff. It is issued to various people of the organization. Here it contains instructions to be followed by audit assistants. It contains questions to be answered by employees of the organization or the client, employees of the client. It is a guideline for audit staff so that nothing remains unchecked. No work is left. That's why it is guideline. It is used to collect information to know about the internal control system and whether it is functioning well. That's it. Okay, simple, very, very simple. So this is one good question. Okay. This chapter is very important. Okay, internal check, internal control, and internal audit. Lots of questions which keep getting asked. Okay, and it has got relevance also, quite good relevance. Okay, so it is very, very important. Internal control, internal check, internal audit is a very important topic too. Okay. Okay. We're seeing basic difference between internal audit, internal control, and internal check. Okay, so what is internal audit? Okay, it is an auditing procedure, correct? Auditing, which is checking procedure. Whatever comes under auditing, this also represents that. Okay, so continuous critical review of financial and operating activities, okay, by a staff member of the audit. Auditing is done by auditors, correct? Internal audit is continuous critical review of financial and operating activities by a staff member of the audit. Okay. Or you can say by the auditor. Okay. By the auditor, you can say. By the internal auditor, you can say. Okay, straight up. That is your internal audit. Now, internal control, it consists of all methods and procedures adopted, okay, for efficient conduct of business. Whatever methods and procedures are required for efficient conduct of business, okay, you establish those procedures. Okay, it includes internal check and internal audit. Okay, this is internal control. Now, internal check is your giving responsibility division of work in such a way that work of one employee is checked continuously by another. That's okay. So internal audit क्या है? It is an audit function. Okay, so it's an appraisal function. You can just say continuous critical review or appraisal of financial and operating activities by the internal auditor. That's it. Okay, an internal check is you're setting up responsibility division of work such that work of one employee is checked continuously by another. Okay, and internal control is it consists of all the methods and procedures adopted, okay, for efficient conduct of business. Includes internal checks and internal audit. Okay, so here you can see internal control is the total system and divided into two: internal check and internal audit. Okay, right? Chalo. Okay. Okay, so chalo, we'll just see the detailed difference now. Okay, between internal audit, internal control, internal check. Okay, in internal audit, each component of work is checked. It is a checking audit function, right? So in internal audit, you will never get confused because it's an audit function. So it is different. It will look different than internal control and internal check. Okay, although internal audit is a part of internal control, but whenever you talk about internal audit, it will be very much like a statutory audit because it is audit. Okay, so each component of the work is checked. Okay, so here in internal control system, so work of one person is automatically checked by another. So this actually they have put, this should be internal check here. Okay, this should actually be for internal check where work of one person is automatically checked by another person. Okay, and here again it is a routine to doubly check every part of transaction, okay, at the time of occurrence and recording. Okay, okay, so here what you can write for internal control, ये sentence उतना it's not internal control को उतना reflect नहीं करता है. Okay, here you can just say each component of the work is checked. Okay. Here you can say one person's work is automatically checked by another person in internal check. You can say that. Okay. Yeah. You can just say it is a total system of controls. Okay. Total system of controls of the entity. ठीक है ऐसा बोल सकते हैं for internal control. Okay. ठीक है तो यहाँ पे थोड़ा ऐसा दिया है कि both these are actually for internal check. Okay. Now you know what is internal control. So ठीक है. ठीक है. So now the objective of internal audit, ठीक है, is to evaluate internal control system. Any kind of audit will evaluate internal control system and detect frauds and errors. ठीक है. That is the objective of internal audit. ठीक है. Internal control objective is little more comprehensive. ठीक है. So it will ensure adherence to management policy, safeguarding of assets. Okay. And of course, prevention and detection of frauds. Then everything is done accurately, etc. All these things are in internal control, comprehensive. Okay. So ensuring that everything is fine. Okay. And internal audit is what? Just make sure that no one employee has exclusive control. Okay. That it gets checked. So any transaction, for any transaction, one employee should not have complete control. That is internal check. Okay. Last one is internal check. Okay. And then internal audit system. Okay. What happens in internal audit? Work is checked after it is done. Correct. Any audit is done after the work. So it is after the work. So here it is simultaneously. Okay. So it is done simultaneously. The check will, if anything is going wrong, the check system will detect it then and there. Correct. The internal control system. Okay. Similarly, internal check also, it will also detect then and there. Okay. So it's a method of recording transactions so that any discrepancy, that is work of one employee, is automatically checked. Okay. If any problem is there, here also it will be detected immediately. Okay. Okay. And then here thrust means main focus. Okay. Main focus is to detect errors and frauds for internal audit. Okay. But for your normal statutory audit, it is to find out the true and fair view of the state of affairs of the concern. Okay. And here the thrust is to prevent errors. Okay. Okay. Here the thrust is to prevent errors. यहाँ पे again फिर ये हो गया. यहाँ पे they have put internal check. यहाँ पे they have put internal control. Okay. This is ठीक है. So thrust of internal control is fixing responsibility and division of work to avoid duplication. So it is actually correct. What this thrust is to prevent errors. यहाँ पे बस नाम गलत हो गया. They have written it correctly. This is not internal check. This should be internal control. And this should be internal check. Okay. ठीक है. And then last two. Cost. Okay. Now internal, for any audit operation, you have to incur separate cost. Correct. So cost involved is in addition to accounting. Separately, we'll have to pay for audit. Correct. Now for internal control system, okay, when you set it up, that time it will be costly because you'll have to set up the entire system. Okay. It proves to be costly for small businesses. That's why. Because everything, literally everything has to be checked. Okay. Any work, when it is double checked, then you are paying more for it to be checked. Correct. So it is costly for small businesses. But internal check, okay, it's a part of internal control system only. So you are just constructing it in a way that work of one employee is checked by the work of another employee. Correct. So you are not, as it is, you are not spending anything more. Are you going to pay more salary to both these employees? No. You're just structuring the work in such a way that it gets automatically checked. So therefore, it does not add to the cost. Okay. An internal audit report will be submitted to the management. Okay. Now, internal control will not submit any report. It will it because of internal control, you can generate many MIS reports. Okay. Okay. So, and summary of day-to-day work, okay, can be shared with the senior. Okay, for internal check. ओके, तो ये हो गया आपका इंटरनल कंट्रोल एंड इंटरनल चेक. ये भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. ओके, वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट. तो आपको इवन आप ये जो बेसिस वाला फर्स्ट पॉइंट इफ यू डू नॉट राइट दैट इज ओके. ठीक है, डायरेक्टली यू कैन राइट, इसको आप छोड़ सकते हो. यू कैन जस्ट फॉरगेट दिस, जस्ट राइट दिस पॉइंट्स. ठीक है, एनीथिंग कैन बी आस्क्ड. डिफरेंस बिटवीन दिस एंड दिस कैन बी आस्क्ड. ओके, और डिफरेंस बिटवीन दिस एंड दिस कैन बी आस्क्ड. ठीक है, any two can be asked. Okay, chalo. Next topic is cutoff procedures. ठीक है, this is a very small topic but important. ठीक है, important इसलिए है क्योंकि many people do not understand what cutoff procedures are. ठीक है, so it's a small thing but कोई आपको you can get some say 4-5 marks questions like that. ठीक है, so what are cutoff procedures का मतलब क्या है जो accounts में. So basically whenever you have a month, ठीक है, अकाउंट्स में से आपका whenever there is a month end or year end, ठीक है, so there are some transactions which are not fully completed. ठीक है, तभी what we do to balance carried down, correct, and in the next period we do to balance brought down, correct. So those are transactions which are not fully completed, that's why you are bringing the balance down, right. So that procedures, ठीक है, तो कितने में what part should be cut off, ठीक है, and what part should be cut off and brought to the next period. ठीक है, that is called cut off procedures. समझ गए ना. okay, so यानी basically in accrual basis what do we do whenever the say your debt is recognized, whenever it is recognized you pass an entry for it. ठीक है, तो that is as per accrual basis. ठीक है, both for debtors as well as creditors. Okay, so जब भी your the transaction is recognized, ठीक है, the contract is complete, okay, then you recognize it. So it is not essential to see when cash is received. ठीक है, so based on that ये cut off procedures बनते हैं. okay. ठीक है, so periods usually coincide with the calendar months. Okay, so but sometimes what happens, some transaction of particular period is not fully completed, it is included in the following period. So then you have to adopt cutoff procedures to find out what part should be cut off. ठीक है, so just to make sure that what amount will be carried to the next period. ठीक है, so उसी के लिए तो हम adjustment entries करते हैं, right, we do adjustment entries for that purpose only. So that cutoff procedures, whether things have been cut off properly, that has to be seen. That is very very important. Otherwise what the organization can do, it can carry forward many things to the next period. ठीक है, इस तरह से the financial position can be falsified. Okay, so what is the main area of concern here? Second, this is the definition of your cutoff procedures. You would have understood, I'm sure. ठीक है, so basic, that is जो balance carried down, balance brought down, what we do, those are basically the cutoff procedures. ठीक है, so here what is the main area of concern? Okay, accounts payable and accounts receivable. ठीक है, this is accrual basis में you have accounts payable, which is your creditors, and accounts receivable, mainly your debtors. ठीक है, so it is here that you know how much amount you are carrying forward to the next period, because it is not getting exhausted in the same period. So you're carrying forward something to the next period. So it has to be checked whether the right amount has been carried forward or not. Okay. Okay. So these two functions are the most susceptible. Which one? Accounts payable and accounts receivable. Why? Because these are the ones which are always carried forward. Okay. In your debtors and creditors balance, every month there will be something which is carried to the next period. It's why they are the areas of concern. Okay. Then there are some cutoff points. Okay. So here you have some serially numbered documents. Okay. Invoices and all, or sales or purchase. Okay. They are allocated to the respective accounting periods by establishing cutoff points. So basically, ये क्या बोल रहा है cutoff points में? Say there is a certain amount of transaction which you are including in the current period. Let us say this is the whole transaction. Okay, this is the transaction which has happened in a month. Okay, of this now, which I'm showing in red, this part has to be cut off. It should move to the next period. So this red part is basically your balance carried down. Okay, this will move to the next period. So here for whatever documents you are using, okay, the document numbering should be different at the cutoff point. What they are saying is ये जो है, at this point यहाँ से things are going to be cut off and moving to the next period. Correct? Okay. So what they are saying is यहाँ पे you should have serially numbered documents. ठीक है? Documents should be numbered in such a way, okay, that it will be easy to identify what part, because you can see the original transaction also and what part was cut off. That will be easy to see. Okay. So इसीलिए documents establishing cutoff points, okay, that should have distinct serial numbers. Okay, ताकि आप identify कर सके. You should be able to identify it. Okay, it is very important. Okay. It required detailed testing by the auditor, that I told you in the beginning itself. Okay, because if it is not done properly, then the statement of the previous period and the current period both will get falsified. Okay, अब यहाँ पे एक example है, ठीक है? You have an example by which you can understand all 4 points. Okay. So say this is an example of purchase procedure. Okay, it has many steps, number of steps, like starting with issue purchase requisition. Okay, within the department, a purchase requisition is issued to the purchase department. Okay, then quotations will be invited. Then sellers will be selected. Terms of purchase will be finalized. Agreement will be entered. Then receipt of goods, storage of goods, payment, all these things will go on. Okay. So all these are stages of the same transaction. Okay. So all documents and vouchers, okay, which determine all these things, that should be serially numbered. What they are saying is use some common serial number for all these. Okay. There should be some part of that serial number using which you should be able to find out that, okay, this is one and the same transaction. If tomorrow you want to search or find out, there should be some part of serial number which should be common in all these things, because it is one transaction. Okay. Why? So that it is easy to find out. If tomorrow auditor wants to see all these transactions together, so he will be able to bring it together. Okay. Modern इसमें सब क्या होता है कि you can, in modern ways you can sort it and all that. Okay. If you maintain it with proper serialing, then sorting becomes easy and okay, checking becomes easy. So auditor must examine cutoff points. Okay. See that they have cut off properly or not. Okay. For example, say 40,000 has to move to next period. Okay. But the current period's profit is less. So what they have done is they are moving 50,000 to the next period. That should not happen. Right? Okay. That's why I should check that. Okay. So, and title of the goods, and just see when the title of the goods is transferred at the right time. That should not depend on the physical delivery. When the contract is over, the title must be transferred. ठीक है, and comply with the Indian accounting standards and relevant statutes. That he has to see. So this part, entire thing, cut off procedures. 1 minute, I'll just put my charger. Okay, so ये जो है ये पूरा कट ऑफ प्रोसीजर्स ना, इट इज जस्ट रिमेंबर, इन शॉर्ट आपको याद रखना है ना, जस्ट रिमेंबर दिस एज, ठीक है, टू बैलेंस ब्रॉट डाउन, okay, by balance carried down or the other way around. Okay, it is about those balances, that the balances are properly determined. वो इसमें important है. Just इसमें आपको ध्यान में क्या रखना है, what you have to remember here, definition. ठीक है, definition, what is that, ठीक है, जो हमने देखा. So basically definition is what I said in short, the balances which are carried to the next period. Okay, that is called cut-off procedures. Then what is area of concern? Main is debtors and creditors. Okay, and cut-off points will be serially, all numbers should be serially numbered properly. All relevant documents, okay, should be serially numbered. Okay, and it is very important because it has to be tested by the auditor, otherwise it will falsify the accounts. Then that example was given. Okay, ये चीज है इसमें मेन. ऐसा short में you should remember. So see, when this type of question comes, say you get a 5-mark question here, they'll only see whether you know the concept of it. Okay, if you have written properly this cutoff, in cutoff procedures, you've written areas of concern, cutoff points, important, then they will know, okay, this person knows that. So internally, you need not match up everything exactly. Okay, okay. Okay, so next is examination in depth or auditing in depth. We बोलते हैं इसको, ठीक, examination in depth or auditing in depth. ठीक है, so it's also called as walk through test. ठीक है, छोटा सा है, इतना ही है. Okay, just understand this क्या है. Okay, if so normally it is asked as auditing in depth. Okay, so what is this process? One is you have to fix maximum tolerable error limit, okay, or also called as desired confidence level. And you are fixing an error limit, okay, that itna error is okay, till this is okay, you can tolerate it, but beyond this you cannot tolerate. Okay, that limit you have to fix. Okay, then select a few transactions in each area of audit. Okay, different area. For receipts you can select that will be one area, payments will be one area, like that. Okay, select a few transactions in each area of audit to be checked. Okay, and then verification of those transactions which you have selected. Okay, verified fully, 100%. The selected transactions will be verified fully. Okay, all transactions will not be verified fully, only the selected transaction will be verified fully. For everything, accounting aspects, internal control, documentation. Okay, audit trail. Okay, what is audit trail? Audit trail is, audit trail general meaning ये होता है कि you have one transaction now. Okay, you go back. Okay, go back and back and back to the first point when that transaction entered in your account books. That is called the entire audit trail. Okay, so suppose you have an entry in the balance sheet, so you go back and see, okay, from which ledger it came to. From ledger you will go back and see which journal it has come from. From there, go and see which voucher. Okay, and before that you can just, even before that, if possible, if there is any record of what was the, say, purchase order or whatever, any document, any voucher is there, you will go till there. So from the end till the first you will go. That is called as audit trail. Okay, enables an auditor to trace transaction from source till end. Okay, and then once all this is done, then analyze the results with maximum tolerable error limit. Okay, so whichever, so ones which are of less tolerable error, that is fine. So with the which has maximum tolerable error limit, those things you will focus on. ठीक है. और ये जो है year whatever you can see, ये there's nothing, this यहाँ पे जो इनका थोड़ा font has been changed by mistake. This is 1, this is 2, this is actually 3, this is 4, and this is 5. These are all points actually. ठीक है. ये सारे points है 1 2 3 4 5. So this is the font got changed, which is why you're seeing it as symbols. Okay. So this is your auditing in depth. Just remember, auditing in depth is not checking entire transaction fully. You are checking only some transactions, but you're checking it fully till the end. Okay. So चलो ये हो गया हमारा auditing in depth. ठीक है. अच्छा, next point is difference between test checking and statistical sampling. Okay. So in test checking, what you do, selective transactions are audited. Okay. Selective transactions are verified in your test checking. And what is statistical sampling? You draw a sampling using a statistical method. Okay. And one sample is drawn from a large number of transactions. It is out of, say, 10,000 transactions, you will pick up a sample using statistical method. Okay, you can pick up a sample of 50 transactions. Okay. So that is called statistical sampling. There's no specific technique in test checking. Okay. But statistical technique is used, that is on random statistical basis, you select transactions here. Okay. And this is subjective and depends on the choice of the auditor. Okay. Test checking auditor will choose, okay, he'll use his judgment and pick up transactions to be tested. Okay. And here it depends upon the technique applied. There are many different formulae which can be used. Based on which formula you're using, the sample can come out different. Okay. ठीक है ना, टेक्निक के ऊपर बेस्ड होता है, statistical technique. ठीक है. Then it involves more risk as there is no specific method for test check. It involves lesser check because statistical method is used, and that sample which you get, it is representative of the whole of the population. Okay. So which is why statistical sampling is a scientific method. Okay, it's a better method. Test checking, in test checking also you are selecting few transactions. Sampling also you are selecting few transactions. But here auditor is using his own judgment. Here he is using statistical method to find out the sample. That's all. Okay. Again, all these JoJo questions are there in objective pattern like this. They are definitely important. Okay. So ये हो गया ना यहाँ पे. चलो, this part is over now. Okay. So next we'll do is internal check part is over. So next is internal audit. Okay. Next part is what? Internal. So next we'll see, we are seeing internal control. Take internal check, we have finished. So this is internal control, second part of this chapter. Okay. So internal control system, what are the objectives of internal control system? We have seen efficient conduct of business, okay, adherence to management policies, safeguarding of assets, very important. Okay. Prevention and detection of errors and frauds. Okay. And checking accuracy and completeness of records. Okay. So you can see that apart from accounting records, it has got, it sees the control over other things also. Okay. So see that the business is conducted efficiently, adherence to management policies, safeguarding of assets, then prevention and detection of errors and frauds, and checking the accuracy and completeness of accounting records. Okay. And then this is internal control. Then internal check and internal audit are parts of internal control system. Okay. Okay. And so internal control system, internal control refers to a process designed for helping organization to accomplish goals and objectives. Through whom? Through people of the organization and through information technology systems. Okay. That is your various software and all that. Okay. Through people and various software. Whereas internal check is what? It is a part of internal control. and useful. ठीक है, it is used as a safeguard against frauds and losses. ठीक है, it just checks the work of the employee, designed in such a way that the work of one employee is checked by another employee. Okay, an internal audit is it is an audit function, ठीक है, for better achievement of objectives. What are the main things of internal control system? ठीक है, so what essentials of internal control system, or what is an efficient internal control system? ठीक है, okay, it will have the following qualities: proper division of functional responsibilities. So functional responsibilities will be properly divided. For proper authorization and assignment of duties, ठीक है, all duties, everyone's duties will be properly demarcated. ठीक है, and adoption of practices for adherence to management policies. ये सब points आपको याद रखना है. ठीक है, there is no shortcut इसमें. ठीक है, so आपको, if you know internal control system, then you can write it. ठीक है, still. And then fourth point is review and authorization of all transactions. So any transaction, before it is recorded in the books, it should be properly organized, properly authorized. Okay, and all assets should be safeguarded. Then last two are internal check and internal audit. Okay, these are the essentials of internal control system. Okay, ये आपको लिखना है for essentials of internal control system. Okay, chalo. Then next is objectives. So that was essentials of internal control system. Okay, what are the main things in internal control system? Next we are going to see objectives of internal control. Okay, so of course for accomplishing desired goals and objectives, okay, that is there, but apart from that, it plays a very important role in any organization. Okay, main objectives are as follows. Okay, one is compliance. When you're talking about compliance, it's compliance with law and accounting practices. So it makes sure that you're complying with law and accounting practices. Okay, reliance, in reliance, it is to increase the reliance on internal systems, people, and accounting practices. Okay, so so basically it is designed in such a way that you can rely on the internal systems. Okay, safeguarding. Okay, so safeguard organizations, accounts, employees, safeguarding of everything. Okay, so mainly all these come under the assets of the organization. Okay, these all come under the assets. Okay, security. Here, if a good system of internal control is there, that means your customers, employees, everyone will feel secure, and your property will also be secure. That is security. Efficiency will be better if there is good internal control. Okay, okay, you don't need to check, stop the work and check and all that. Okay, so efficiency will be better. Okay, evaluation of accounting system. Okay, so there will be proper evaluation of accounting transactions. Okay, तो इसमें आपको क्या याद रखना है? What you have to remember the main words. ठीक है, objectives of important internal control. Remember these words. ठीक है, बस बाकी आप आराम से लिख सकते हो. You can write under it. ठीक है, just remember the words here. ठीक है, there are more. ठीक है, evaluation. Okay, for review and correction. ठीक है, so it can, if there is good internal control, you can review working of the business and see the weak points and take corrective measures at the right time. ठीक है, तो इसमें ये सब आ गया, review and correction. If you remember this point, you can write the whole point. ठीक है, अच्छा, अभी ये क्वेश्चन कितना आपको मैक्सिमम कितना का आ सकता है? मैक्सिमम you can get this for is 5 marks, not more than that. Okay, so you need only those many points. ठीक है, you have these many points. 5 marks means if you can muster 7-8 points, it is more than enough. ठीक है, so if there is good internal control, then all transactions, everything will be properly authorized. Okay, and delegation is division of duties among employees. Okay, it will help in accurate planning because already the system is planned. So if the system is planned, the work is devised in such a way that all work will be planned. Okay. Conformity with accounting principles. Okay. Resource utilization, because this is related with your efficiency. Okay. Efficiency is good. That means resource utilization also will be good. Safeguarding of resources. Okay. We have already seen this as safeguarding of assets. So if you can somehow pull out 6 to 8 points, it's more than enough to get your 5 marks. Okay. Okay. Safeguarding of resources and setting future corporate goals. Okay. So how setting future corporate goals? Because you know what kind of system you have. So based on this system, how much you can expand, what can you do, all those things are future corporate goals you can set. Okay. Because internal control system shows your competence. Okay. Right. चलो ये हो गया. Next is advantages of internal controls. ठीक है, ये सब चीजें important है. All these are already tabulated for you. Okay. Advantages of internal controls. ठीक है. तो इसमें आपको just try to remember these main points. ठीक है, ये points जो है ये important है. अंदर का आप लिख लेना, लेकिन बट ये लिख लेंगे तो पक्का you will, if you write these 4 points, if it comes for 5 marks, you will easily get 5 marks. ठीक है. So what are the advantages? First is efficiency, effectiveness and economy. ठीक है. This we have seen in the previous section also. You'll be efficient, effective and ठीक है, work, there will be good economy also. Of course, prevention of errors and irregularities. ठीक है. Safeguard of irregularities or misappropriations. Okay. And employee satisfaction will be there. Okay. All because there will be segregation of duties and all. So employee, see, if the work is not well designed, then the employees have a problem working with such an organization because there's too much of fatigue working with such organizations. ठीक है. So ये points याद रखना. ठीक है, ये main वाले अंदर का आप आराम से लिख सकते हो. ठीक है. चलो आगे. So types of internal control systems. Next is types of internal control system. ये बहुत simple है. This is very simple. ठीक है. There are 2 types of internal control system: preventive and detective. ठीक है. One is this preventive. ठीक है. Another one is detective. ठीक है. So जैसे नाम बता रहा है, preventive means this system will prevent any bad thing from happening. Detective means it will, if anything has happened, anything wrong has happened, it will detect it. That is detective. Okay. So these are the 2 things. So one is preventive controls. 2 types of internal controls. One is preventive controls. So how this is done is, examples of preventive controls: segregation of duties. Okay. So here duties are segregated among different people such that responsibilities for authorizing transactions, that is approval, is given by another person. Recording, that is accounting, is done by another person, and custody of the asset is with some other person. Okay. So this is called segregation of duties. Okay. The example is approval is done by one person. Okay. Approval is done by one person, accounting by another person, custody is given to another person. This is segregation of duties, division of duties. Okay. This prevents lots of irregularities. This is the first one. Second is approvals, authorizations and verifications. Okay. So here certain employees are authorized, okay, to authorized, and they can check the work of another people, like they're supervisors. Okay. So some employees, before doing something, they will need supervisory approval. Okay. So if there is certain thing which has got more risk, so a supervisor will be assigned and the supervisor's approval will be needed. So that is approval and authorization. Okay. The supervisor approval can be manual or electronic. Okay. Sometimes they can take approval from a system also. Okay. So it will generate some number or something. Okay. So, and only after getting that number or code, they can proceed. So that will be electronic approval. Otherwise, Manual, we all know a supervisor is there. Okay, okay. So this can find out whether so everything, all transactions get verified. Okay, okay. And you can make sure that they have followed proper procedures. And ये second वाला है approvals, authorizations and verifications. जब इसमें क्या लिखना है? Just see to it that you just have to write that employees, this is framed in such a way that employees need supervisory approval, and it can be manual or electronic. Only this much you have to write for this. Okay. Chalo. Okay. Last one is security of assets. Okay. This actually falls partly under preventive, partly under detective. Okay. Security of assets. Okay. So here what is done for prevention, access to certain assets, cash and all these things, it is restricted. So all employees cannot access assets. Okay. And assets are periodically counted and compared. Okay. So to make sure that everything is fine. So when you periodically count and compare, this part comes under detective. Okay. And preventive part is access is restricted. Okay. Anything which is very costly or something, just make sure that who doesn't need access to it, okay, they should not have access. In many multinational companies and all, what happens is you do not have access to all rooms. Okay. Say if this is a multinational company, okay. So, and say this is a room, okay, and this part belongs to accounting team. Okay. Then it is made sure that the accounting employees can only enter here. Okay, and they will leave from here. They do not have access to enter other areas. Okay. So this is what they are talking about. Okay. So chalo, ये हो गया आपका. These are the 3 points for preventive controls. ठीक है. Quite simple. कभी भी बस इसमें remember the headings. Headings important है only. अंदर का आप लिख सकते हो. Okay, you can write. Okay. Then what are detective controls? Okay. So they'll find errors after they have been incurred. So their examples are reviews of performance. So management will compare performance with budgets. Okay. So they will come to know whether performance is up to the mark or not. So based on that, they can detect that if it is not up to the mark, that means the work has not been done as per controls. Okay. Then reconciliation. Reconciliation is again different employees data. There are 2 different employees. At the end of the period, they will check their notes. Okay. If anything is not proper, okay, then it will be detected there. So this is also reconciliation is a part of detective control. Okay. Then okay, physical inventory counting and all that. Okay. And that also, if it is not as per the books, as per the store's records and all, you will find out. Okay. Audit is also a detective control. Okay. Anything goes wrong, audit can find it out. Okay. ठीक है. So preventive and detective दो चीजें हमने किए. Third one is corrective control. ठीक है. This targeted correction of errors and regularities when they are detected. So this is actually very closely related to detective controls. ठीक है. तो ये है third वाला, बस याद रखना. It is correct after detection, correction. ठीक है. Corrective controls. ठीक है. This will make sure that after detection that thing has been corrected. It has not been left as it is. ठीक है. बस वो ये करेगा. Right. So steps in internal control है हमारा next ये. ठीक है. Steps in internal control. So effective internal control will have these steps. First step is control environment. Control environment is you have to establish integrity and ethical value. So when employees come in, okay, you tell them about the ethical value of the organization, okay, and all those things. So जिससे एक environment बनता है. Okay, okay, we are working in for an ethical company and all that. The first thing is build a control environment with ethics. Okay, after that, do assessment of risk. What is the risk now? That company will assess an establishment of plan to prevent risk. Okay, they will also act, so they will establish a plan and control activities. Here they will formulate policies and procedures. So actually in point three is where the real internal control system will get set up. Okay, in point three, control activities. Then information and communication. So after the internal control is set up, the employees are not conforming to it. Okay, then they will be told evaluation of employee performance. ठीक है, वो करना है information and communication with monitoring, assess the overall performance of the organization, keep assessing it. These are steps in internal control. ठीक है. Okay, so नीचे जो diagram है, it's just showing the same thing. Okay, यहाँ देखोगे आप, you can just see control environment, assessment of risk, Okay, it's just showing it in a flowchart manner. ठीक है. So nature and scope of internal control. Next point. Okay. So nature is, ठीक है, first क्या है, what is internal control? Internal control किस type का होता है? ठीक है. What is internal control? So nature of internal control is, it is very important for efficient and effective management. ठीक है. When the control is proper, only then there will be efficient and effective management. For this, they have quoted SA 265. ठीक है. Communicating deficiencies in internal control to those charged with governance and management. ठीक है. SA 265 is what? Communicating deficiencies in internal control to those charged with governance and management. This is auditor's responsibility. ठीक है. To communicate deficiencies in internal control. ठीक है. So this essay defines internal control as whatever you have studied before. ठीक है. Same thing है यहाँ पे. Okay. So it is policies and procedures adopted by management for achieving the orderly and efficient conduct of business, efficiency, okay, including adherence to management policies, safeguarding assets, prevention, detection of fraud, accuracy and completeness of accounting records. Okay, same thing which we have seen earlier. Okay, so in nature and scope of internal control. In nature, you just have to write the basic point of internal control. Okay. Okay, so basic point of internal control लिखना है, just quote SA 265 और इसको याद रखो. Okay, just remember this part. This is the name of SA 265. Okay, so it defines internal control, and now for this definition, just write your understanding of internal control. ठीक है. Okay, it will help in assisting management objective, ठीक है, of orderly and efficient conduct of business, ठीक है, and adherence to management policies, all this safeguarding assets and all this, ठीक है, prevention fraud and ये सब लिख देना है. Nature point is over, nothing new you have to do. ठीक है, सिर्फ जो हमने पहले सीखा है, we are only repeating that in nature. What we have learned earlier, that we are repeating here. ठीक है, only thing is just remember this essay. ठीक है. For nature also and scope also, they have quoted the same thing. SA 265. ठीक है. It defines accounting system. It is defining accounting system. Okay, series of tasks and records of an entity by which transactions are processed as a means of maintaining financial records. ठीक है. So accounting system is basically series of tasks and records by which you are maintaining financial records. That's it. ठीक है, और कुछ नहीं. Accounting system को you can use your own words also. Okay, ठीक है. But system of internal control extends beyond the matters which relate directly to accounting. ठीक है. Internal control is not just accounting, correct? ठीक है. Internal control में there are many more things which come, right? Your budgetary control and many other things come, right? Formulation of plan, ठीक है. So यहाँ पे जो internal control में जो the control word which is used, it represents overall attitude, awareness of directors and management. ठीक है. For example, in a strong control environment, there will be tight budgetary controls, effective internal audit. ठीक है. You know what are the contents of internal control. ठीक है. वही सब चीजें हमको लिखना है in different ways. Okay. Effective internal audit. ठीक है. The control environment depends on. ठीक है. What does the control environment depends on? Organizational structure, function of board of directors. ठीक है. So that is how strong is the audit committee of the board of directors. ठीक है. For board of directors, they make many committees. ठीक है. The same directors, some say there is a committee of 2 directors, there can be another committee of 3 directors, like that. Okay, so there is a committee called audit committee. ठीक है. So how strong is the audit committee? Then management's philosophy and audit style, operating style. Okay. ठीक है. Management's control system, including internal audit, personal policies, etc. So in the end, your internal control, ये 4 पॉइंट जो हमने देखे अभी, your internal control basically will depend on how well the management is designing it. Correct. ठीक है. सो वो है. तो ये आएगा, ये सब आएगा स्कोप ऑफ इंटरनल कंट्रोल. जैसे आप देख रहे हो, जैसे स्कोप इज आस्क्ड. ठीक है. ऐसा कैसे यू हैव टू राइट, इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट. ठीक है. जस्ट हैव टू राइट. ये आपको लिखते आना चाहिए कि ऑफ कोर्स when we are talking about the nature of internal control, you will just write what is internal control, that you know. Okay, right. And scope of internal control, so you can just write that. Okay, there are in scope, that is what are the things which comes. You have to write it in a way that not just accounting but many more things come under the scope of internal control. Okay, so on that lines you will have to write. Okay, यहाँ पे control procedures, we are talking about control procedures. से सब all is similar. ठीक है. So all this physical verification of assets, periodical review, reconciliation of accounts, controls on computer generated data, these all come under control procedures. ठीक है. So whatever is a type of control, ठीक है, computer software is controlling the data, all that comes under internal control. ठीक है. Okay. So your final summarization is in this point. Scope of internal control extends beyond mere accounting controls. ठीक है. ये sentence आप समझ लोगे ना. You just understand this sentence. Based on this sentence, you can write the whole part. ठीक है. It extends beyond accounting controls. Then thus operating controls such as quality control, work standards, budgetary control. ठीक है. Budgetary control, periodic reporting, policy appraisals, quantitative controls. Quantitative control means like you are doing stock taking and all that, that will come under quantitative controls. ठीक है. etc. are all part of internal control system. ठीक है. ये चीजें, ये वाला आप याद रख लेंगे. Okay. So you can just write scope of internal control system में ये पैरा है बस. In this para, just add 1 or 2 sentences, your scope will be over. Okay. ठीक है. Next part is basic elements of internal control. ठीक है. इसमें कुछ नया नहीं है. This is what we have done already. Okay. Basic elements of internal control. So what should be the elements in internal control? ठीक है. So इसमें this is a flow chart. ठीक है. Financial and other organization plans, competitive personnel, division of work, all these things should be there in internal control. Same thing, ये सारी चीजें जो है नीचे it has been written यहाँ पे. यहाँ से हम देखते हैं. Okay, we'll see from here. Flow chart is given on top. ठीक है. The same points, all these same points are there below. ठीक है. So I'll explain it from here. First is financial and other organizational plans. ठीक है. So here what is said is all organizational plan, the way the work is done and all that, you should have proper flow charts and all. ठीक है. Which defines everything. So in a case if a person is absent absent and another person has to do that work. Okay, the flow chart and all will guide him properly. Okay. So first point is financial and other organizational plans. Talk about flow chart, process manual and all that. Okay. Second is competent personnel. People should be competent. Okay. Division of work, we have already talked about that. Separation of operational responsibility from record keeping. Okay. The person who is recording, the person who is taking care of the asset will be different. Okay. All that, all these things हमने already discuss कर चुके हैं. Okay. So I'm just telling you the meaning. आपको ये अंदर की चीजें पढ़ने की भी जरूरत नहीं है. Okay. Don't even need to read the internal things. Separation of custody from assets. ठीक है. Again, similar thing. Separate the custody of assets from accounting. Okay. Authorization. There should be an authorization. Wherever authorization is required, the authorization should be there. Without that, transaction should not happen. ठीक है. इस तरह से internal control होना चाहिए. ठीक है. These are all the main things of internal control, right? Last is managerial supervision and review. The management supervision should be there always. They should keep on reviewing the things. Okay? They cannot sit tight thinking that the internal control is working well, so they don't need to do anything. Okay? ठीक है. ये आपके ये 7 points हो गए. And next we are going to talk about, so the way I am taking you through is that abhi dekhiye, now you have got less time for your exam, right? So is tarah se I am telling you that conceptually you will understand it also, and very easily you can write it also. Okay? That's the main idea. Okay. Next is importance of internal control. Okay. What is the importance of internal control? Organizational goals and objectives you can attain. Okay. You'll get good financial information, good quality. You can comply with law and regulation. Okay. Efficient and effective. Okay. Prevention of fraud and error. So इसमें कुछ बताने के लिए कुछ है ही नहीं. ठीक है. After whatever we have अभी जितना हमने पढ़े हैं, you've studied of so much of internal controls. These 5 points I don't even think need repetition. Correct? Okay. So that's why we'll now go to the next thing, which is limitations of internal control. ठीक है. So limitations again आप जो है try to remember 5-6 points from limitations. ठीक है. If the organizational structure is not properly made, then your control will not work properly. ठीक है. For control, the topmost thing, first thing should be organization should be structured properly. ठीक है. So otherwise, see, if you've got two managers who are not in good terms, दो managers हैं जिनका आपस में बनता नहीं है. Okay. So now the employees will know this manager doesn't like this manager. So these employees also, ये वाले employees, his employees will avoid these employees, the employees of other person. So ऐसे केस में can proper internal control function? No, because these two are parallel people. ठीक है. They both have parallel powers. Internal control will not function properly. So organizational structure should be proper. Okay. Size of the organization. Okay. Now for small organizations, you will not have good internal control because every transaction, everything you will have interference from the owners. Okay. Or the management. Unusual transactions, because the controls are designed for transactions known. There's some special kind of new transaction, then internal control will not stop it. Okay, it is costly. As we have seen, it is very costly. Small organizations cannot afford it. Okay, abuse of power. So members of top level management, they can circumvent internal control. Collusion of two or more people. So you have framed it in such a way that one transaction is going through 4 people. All 4 have colluded together, then okay, then fraud can happen, right? So that is one thing. Okay. Obsolescence. So see, you will have to keep on making internal control tight. Okay. With passage of time, it can become redundant. So one example I'll give you. Say there are, say, 4 clerks are there. initially the work was very tight, control was very good, but they have all worked together now for 5 6 years. They have gone to each other's functions, they know each other very well now. So now those four will not are not good enough for the control function. So you will have to then move them in such a way that there are some new people who come in the mix. Okay? So you have to keep updating it. Human errors anyway, as a limitation you can put it, but human error basically can happen in anything, correct? Not just here, can happen anywhere. Okay? So you have to, in internal control, follow up is also very essential. Anything wrong has happened, but to keep following up, and it is very time consuming. Okay? Right? So ये है आपका deficiencies of internal control. This is your deficiencies of internal control. Okay? So next is responsibilities of management with auditors in relation to auditors. Okay? So now prime responsibility of internal control is with management. Management का ही काम है to make sure that it is the responsibility of the management to make sure there is internal control and is functioning properly. So what is auditor's responsibility here? Okay? He has to make sure that there is proper internal control first, because for him the quality of the data is based on quality of internal control. That's why auditor will test. But who is the owner of internal control? The management. Okay. So auditor is testing not because it is his responsibility. He's testing because he depends on the result of internal control. Okay. If it is not, if there is the internal control is weak, then what he has to do is he has to bring it to management's notice. Okay. And he has to issue a letter of weakness or a management letter and state that internal control is not up to the mark. Okay. So now, so evaluation of internal control by the auditors. How we will, so यहाँ पे हमने बोला कि here we have said he will issue a letter of weakness if there is a weakness. For that he will have to evaluate the internal control. How he will evaluate the internal control? Okay. First he will understand the system. Okay. How? Discussion with various people. Okay. You'll see the organization chart and all that. Okay. See that if it is properly designed. Okay. And third one is we'll do some inquiries using questionnaire. Okay. This is how we can understand the system. Okay. And then next what he has to do, okay, he will, after understanding the internal control, he will have to test it. Okay, he'll have to test it whether it is functioning properly. So how? One is procedural test. Okay, so procedural test is he will okay, this is also called as we have talked about compliance and substantive procedures, correct? This compliance procedure, we are talking about compliance procedures now in procedural test. Okay, so he'll just test the procedures laid down by the management, okay, in respect of transaction flow at each stage, whether it is giving you good level of control at each stage. Okay, and he has to ask from them assurance of that they are implementing the internal controls properly. Take an assurance from them. Okay, that as per them it is functioning properly. Okay, and then he will just test the system with some procedures. Okay, so this is the procedural test. Okay, or you can call it as compliance test. Okay, second is examination as a debt. This is the substantive test. Okay, here what he will do, here he has only he's testing with respect to transaction flow at each stage. Okay, but here he is examining at depth. He's selecting few transactions from the beginning till the end, and he's seeing that the whole accounting system is providing proper data or not. Okay. So So he's just testing the quality of data of the entire system here. Okay. This is he's only testing with reference to internal control. Okay. Whether the internal control is happening or not, it is just testing this. Then the second thing is examining at depth. So he's finding out any transaction he'll pick, okay, from first till the end, and then finding out whether the quality of transaction is proper or not. Okay. And based on these two tests, what we'll do, we'll form a conclusion. Okay. And in conclusion, what will be the things you will see for conclusion? Degree and nature of weakness in the system. Okay. How much is the weakness, if at all there is weakness? Okay. Extent to which audit reliance can be placed. How much I can rely on this system. Okay. And what are the substantive procedures that need to be applied. Okay. So apart from this, if there is any other detailed test that he needs to do, that he will check. ये है आपका टेस्टिंग ऑफ इंटरनल कंट्रोल. अगेन यहाँ पे अगर ये पूछा गया था आपको क्या लिखना है, टेस्टिंग ऑफ इंटरनल कंट्रोल, व्हाट यू शुड राइट. ठीक है, ऑफ कोर्स यू शुड बी एबल टू राइट प्रोसीजरल टेस्ट एंड एग्जामिनेशन एट डेप्थ. These two words you have to write. ठीक है, internally just write what I told you. You can frame in your own words. ठीक है, but these two words should be there. And conclusion, he'll form a conclusion on internal control based on these three things that you have to write. Okay, this is about testing of internal control. Okay, this is the last part of your internal control system. After this, internal audit is very short. Okay, internal audit is short, and after that you got vouching and verification, which is also a short part. Okay, so that two of that I think will take 1 hour for that. Okay, I'll post another lecture for that, right? Okay, so with that this unit will get completed. Okay, chalo. So techniques for evaluation of internal control system. So how do you evaluate the internal control system? So there are these 4 techniques. The first one is narrative record. So this is basically, this is done where you do not have a formal internal control system in small organizations and all. So basically, so it's not possible for you to go and test because you will not find anything in it. Okay. So the organization is not formal at all. So better than that, what is done is a narrative record is taken. That is, you will go to some person, okay, some person in the organization, some person of importance, and you will ask him, okay, tell me how is the work done, what are the controls you have. Okay, so that is called as narrative record. Okay? Of course, it's a little weak way of doing it because it's just a narrative record. And checklist. Okay? So checklist is a series of instructions, as we have already seen. What is checklist? Correct? Instructions given to audit staff. He has a checklist. After he does the work, he'll tick it off. Okay? So this is basically for the audit staff that the auditor will give. Flow chart. Okay? So it's a pictorial representation of internal control system. So you will have a diagram that from the org chart, what work is done, okay, who is in charge of this work, who are the employees under this manager, all data like that in a flow chart is prepared. Okay, so this is the internal control evaluation. Then it becomes little easier, okay, when the audit team has a flow chart. They'll first prepare the flow chart here. Okay, so this is the flow chart method. Last is questionnaire, which you already know. Okay, this is the most widely used method for collecting information. Okay, so you'll ask questions to various people of the staff of the client. Okay, and questionnaire is designed such that you'll get answers in yes or no. Based on that, you'll find out how good is the internal control system. ठीक है, चलो, these are the 4 points now. Okay, तो इसमें भी जैसे दिस इज आल्सो पॉइंटेड क्वेश्चन, पॉइंट वाइज, ठीक है। टेक्निक्स फॉर इवैल्यूएशन ऑफ इंटरनल कंट्रोल सिस्टम, तो ये 4 आपको याद रखने हैं। दिस जस्ट फ्लो, ये इसके बेसिस में यू कैन राइट, नीचे आपको पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं, आई एक्सप्लेन इट टू यू, ठीक है, जस्ट यू कैन राइट इट बेस्ड ऑन दिस। ओके, ठीक है, ये हो गया आपका ये। नेक्स्ट इज इंटरनल ऑडिट, which as I said, internal audit, and then we have got vouching and verification. Both are very small parts, I think 2 pages, ठीक है, hardly 2 pages, this 2 pages that. The next lecture I'll complete this part, ठीक है, okay.